Hello,
Hello.
it's Collin again here with Nathan for the first time.
Hey, all. I am Nathan. I am the wearer of many hats. I am the person who went from other Collins Sharpie on cardstock to putting it on a spreadsheet so we could create all the cards that we have today. And we are going to go today over that entire process and how that kind of worked. I also happen to be the one that wrote the rule book and the one organizing playtest sessions.
Yeah, so if you've been playtesting with us for our the upcoming factions, you're very familiar with Nathan. That entire process was pretty much done start to finish with him. We have we're kind of gonna today we're gonna go over kind of how we got. He mentioned Sharpies on cards. We're gonna talk about how long we were doing that, into kind of why we went through, why we tasked Nathan with figuring out how to uh, make that a little easier on us. Sharpies on cards. I've got several of these to show off today. Um, the gist of it is this is just we started. Collin basically started by uh, buying a big set of blank playing cards. You can get them on Amazon. They're relatively cheap. They're pretty easy. They look like this, and he bought a set of permanent markers. Comes with red, green, and blue. That's why those were the original three colors of the orbs. And he would write out every single card,
Yep.
much like this. You'll notice some have stuff in the top left corner, some have stuff in the top right corner. Some of it has worse handwriting than others. The one with worse handwriting is mine. Um, but for a really long time, this is how we made every single playtest card. If we needed a playset, guess what? You had to write it twice. This is Essence Burst, by the way. Hasn't changed much since in its final form. But yeah, if you wanted a playset, guess what? You had to write it 3 times, and if you wanted 2 decks, you had to write it 6 times. It's very
Yep.
tedious, very time consuming, and if you changed a lot of things, you could cross some things out and rewrite some things. Like, see here, we changed the cost on this card after playing it. But if you wanted to do more than that, guess what? You had to make 3 more.
Yep. And that's something I see a lot of new creators do. And it's honestly just the easiest way to get your ideas physically on paper so you can see if your game works. But long term to scale, that was the first thing that I wanted to like kind of break from the cycle. Because once you start iterating and like playing weekly and you want to make those changes, making those changes, like let's say you want to make that one cost change to the 4 playtest decks that we have, well, then you have to go find those 12 cards in all the decks and change those costs. And that's just for one card, where if you're playing with a set of over 100, then you need to actually go through every single card and make sure that they're updating the way you want it to. Otherwise, you'll have one person that's playing with a non-updated card, and okay, do we want to do an A/B testing, or are we actually trying to make sure that everyone is on the same page?
Yeah, it is like Nathan said, it's probably the single best way to get your starting ideas out. And it's
Right.
also not a bad way if you want to write out cards. Like I'm always, if I have to physically write something out as an idea, it's easier for me to like fully form. If you actually have to write everything out,
Yeah.
having a more fully formed idea is better. So like doing this one time and making a bunch of single cards, it's a pretty good way to knock out a bunch of card ideas. But once you get past the idea phase and into the kind of playtesting phase, gets pretty rough.
Yeah.
Just to show you an example of just how many times, mostly Collin, but a lot of us have done this. Let me show you kind of the sheer amount of playtest cards that we have. Um, in the
No, Brian, the reason why for a lot of it is they weren't named at all. Like most of the cards that Collin created with the Sharpies on paper didn't have names. So it was very hard. Like it was a matter of, okay, so the one drop with lunge, the uh essence burst, the card that plays two cards, we shifted that from 7 to 6 or whatever. Without names, then it was super hard to just like kind of keep ideas of all the cards. And then when you went to actually name the cards anyway, that's just more text that you're putting on all of the different cards that you're creating, and something that you're going to like keep track of in your head without any formal like spreadsheet process. It's just a lot to keep with all the gears moving. So one of the first things that I did, and you'll like see right here, was one of the first iterations of Collin would send me pictures on pictures because I'm the only remote person on the team. I could not even physically see any of the cards that the Collins and Gabe, like they were all playtesting with. I had no idea like how that actually played until I made my spreadsheet. So I went through, Collin sent me hundreds of pictures. I put every single one of those cards into a spreadsheet and then made a printable file. And you'll see kind of like the evolution of that in the screen right now, where you've got the cards that were Sharpied, but also cards that now have like clip art and
I've got some here in
names.
front of
And
me.
yeah.
Yeah, so like we had a few of these, and that's kind of where that's the next stage in our kind of like evolution here. These are some really early ones, Nathan. Look at these. They're
Yeah.
like
Back when
they have
I
the
very,
full.
the full black. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I very quickly realized that there's a lot of resources on your printer if you go black. So we went and started doing outlines. We like flipped and inverted the colors, so
We can
you were
go
only seeing like the gray outlines to cards as we were printing more of them.
we can go
And
one at a time here. So like
yeah,
this is an example of like uh where to save ink we basically made the background. So we went from this to this to this. Um, and notice this uses way less ink. Um, so one of the kind of more interesting there's several parts of just to keep us on track. There's several parts of the evolution I want to touch on. The first though, I would like to say let's keep going with kind of like how we got there. So Colin would send you pictures, your remote. We needed you to
yeah,
like be able to play test. So the plan was you were going to write out all of these as well. You were like, I don't really want to do that. So and rightfully so. It's tedious. It takes a while. Um,
and then if I make any changes, then I have to try to communicate all of those changes to you
yep.
when you're not physically next to me, and vice versa. Whereas if we kind of put all of the thoughts into one editable thing, then anything that I edit, y'all can see, and vice versa.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to point out in the picture I'm showing here, the long boxes on the left, like those are all handwritten Sharpie cards. All of the long boxes above, those are all handwritten Sharpie cards. A lot of them are one of ideas. Several of them are some of the earliest Wanderer cards. I'm like I said, like this was one of the original Wanderers cards. No name, just random stuff. This was Essence Burst, which didn't change a whole lot from this to final. Some of these have black on them, which means it was colorless orbs. Like we don't do that anymore. So like there's I think this was Hive Queen originally before it was Hive Queen. So um yeah, it's pretty cool to see all of those. I hadn't gone through those cards in a really long time until I was digging them up for this. Um, but we used a lot of Sharpie and we wrote on a lot of blank playing cards. A lot of those are also double sided. A lot of them, if we had stuff on this side, we'd flip it over and use the other side. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of Sharpie on those cards. um, but we went from that to spreadsheets, and I can kind of show an example of what our spreadsheets look like.
Yeah, I've prepped a blank one that uses the same templating that we use now. It's our overall spreadsheet template has evolved over the years as I've played around and added more features and functionality. And I can go through a little of what we've done and how it looks currently. And we can even go through how to create a card from scratch. Like if Collin were to hand me a Sharpied card and how we would add that to the spreadsheet itself and make that digitally so anyone in our playtesting team anywhere can print it out.
Yeah, I realize I don't know how to share my screen on OBS, Nathan, or show a browser.
Okay, so go ahead and click on that eyeball, turn it on. And then right-click Properties.
Okay.
You might have to... It looks like it's right. Yeah, Properties.
And then it's just... Stay tuned, folks. Sorry.
BRB. Swap us over to the spreadsheet.
Hello, we're back. Got that figured out.
Cool. All right. So what you have in front of you is just our basic Google Sheet, and it really doesn't have to be super complicated. We have a bunch of different columns that all showcase the different parts of a card. So A would be name. B is actually our internal, like how we communicate what phase of design process the card is in. So phase 0 is just idea. It's like we are throwing spaghetti at the wall. We want to be able to see how this card might look, but it's not going to be read until it's 1, which is a prototype. At the bottom, you actually see that we have 2 separate tabs in the sheet. We have example and then a Dex example. The Dex example is grabbing all of the things that have at least proto, like number 1 or above, and is shipping them to Dexterous. Anything that is 0 is not getting shipped to Dexterous. So it's like, while we're still molding it, it's not even being considered as a card functionality. Past that, we have other things you'd expect to see on a card. Cost, the check, is it unique? Does it have the like a fast typing? Is the card a unit? Is it a relic? Is it a spell? Is it a favorite? Is it an orb? Subtypes, not super relevant in the Wanderers, but coming up, we're going to have a lot of things that are relevant to subtypes. We have the attack and health, and we also, in the health tab, have durability for relics and favored. So if you'll see on cards, they actually exist in that same spot. So when we tell Dexterous that it is a unit versus a relic, it is grabbing a separate frame. So it'll change how the card looks, but the health still exists in the same spot. You can do it differently where you have the health as one column and the durability as another column, and have those in different locations if you wanted to. But just for simplicity's sake, I just wanted to have them all be in the same place, and that kind of just converted into how the actual cards are laid out in the final process. So it worked out. Then you just have Dex text, which is any ability text that the cards have. What Collin did was put curly brackets around the words arrive and overwhelm, because in our game we actually have a pillbox around special keywords. So you can tell Dexterous what words need to have like a special flair or a replacement image by creating more like a key, like a map on the Dexterous side, and we will show that in a bit. And
can we take a quick step back and explain like how you got to Dexterous?
Yeah. So Dexterous is actually the third thing that I used. I was already using Nandek for personal.
And what's Nandek?
Nandek is one of many different options that designers can use to take data from a spreadsheet and convert into an image. And so what Nandek, Dexterous, Cocktail I use as well, they are services that will look at the different columns in a spreadsheet and then assign those columns a value or location on an image. So what Nandek would do is, like, if I have something written in the name column, I would tell Nandek where I want that name to be, and it would put that name in that spot on the card. And you would just do that for every single part of these columns, where all of the columns are different parts of a card. So I assigned them to be on certain places of the cards. And as you saw over the course of playtesting, we had, costs go from the left to the right to a different location on the card. Names are on the top, names are in the center, names on the right, left. Like, all of that can be modified all at once. So if we wanted to change that by writing it down, we would have to create all new cards. Where in a system like Nandek, you could just physically move where you want that name to be to somewhere else, and it will do that for every single card. So if you need to make one small change to everything in your system, it's just as easy as that. Where physically, that is one small change to every card you've written out. So Nandek was the first one I tried. There are some reasons why we moved away from it. One of them is just it was a little rough. The more images that you add, it likes to create all of them at once, and it creates a ton of cookies and can slow down your computer. I might have been doing it in improper way. I've seen a lot of people really like Nandek, and it did work for us for the longest time. But I eventually started looking elsewhere. I have other friends in the design industry. One of them suggested Cocktail, which is a nice service as well. You can choose to subscribe to it or to buy a lifetime license. It has a free trial that is, again, still very good. We used that for a while. I bought the lifetime license, and then I was actually going back to that friend to talk about different things that you could do with it. And that friend actually went on to say that they've been trying out Dexterous. So we used Nandek for over a year. We used Cocktail for probably 6 to 8 months, and then I tried out Dexterous because I am very open to new products. Like, if somebody says, hey, there's this new thing out of the block, they have different functionality, more or less all of these services work the same, where you are giving them a spreadsheet and then setting up how you want that spreadsheet to turn into a card, and then seeing how they do the different service in their own way. Dexterous served a really good purpose for us because it was the first one that we had that actually is functionally all web-based. So I don't have to save a file and then ship it to Collin, and then Collin edits it and then saves it and then ship it back. That has worked for generations as far as like GitHub style of programming and um, repository like saving. I'm not a huge fan of that style if you're working on a team, because I like just being able to hit refresh and then my teammate sees it. So that has really helped us as far as Dexterous goes, because I can make an edit or I can make an update, and then Colin can immediately see it happen, and he doesn't have to re-download the file or be on a specific computer that has all that set up. All he needs to do is log into Dexterous and see it. So,
So
long
now
and
that
short, go ahead.
so now that you've kind of gone through like how we got to Dexterous, do you want to explain? Well, this is not a tutorial of like how to use Dexterous.
Right.
At least today, if that's something that people are interested in, like leave a comment, like let us know. Like I know Nathan could go through his entire process. Getting to this point where what I'm showing right now took Nathan a while. There's a lot of trial and error. We're not
So,
going to
like,
go through everything today.
yeah, the columns that you're seeing right here immediately are super simple. They are just literally name, attack, health, etc. When we get over to the red, that's actually columns that I've locked because they're all formula based, and you'll see that Collin didn't actually write anything in those. They're all entirely based off of what he has written. The formula is grabbing that and then putting it into a specific file path or whatever Dexterous needs. I have created a separate thing to make that work. So, like in the case of a frame, right? We tell it is a unit that is, in this case, from the faction example, and it is going into the Dexterous image files and grabbing the example unit frame. And that is going to set the baseline for what the card is going to look like. And that's actually one of the interesting things that I tried out early on, is that there's an option to create a different file set for spells, units, relics, etc., just so that you can have them all with their different loadouts and layouts. Where instead, I decided to try a file path system where you just have it read what it is and it opens it all separately and puts them all into the same spreadsheet.
Are we ready to go over to Dexterous?
Sure.
Okay. So now we have this here. We've filled out everything we need.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and let's see. Let me make sure this is working on my end. Luminous example. Allow. So we should just be able to hit refresh CSV, and it will create that one card. Now, what are you seeing on your side?
It has created the card.
Cool. So every time that you add new cards, it is creating a separate, more compact spreadsheet inside Dexterous that you can edit if you would like to. But whenever you hit the refresh CSV, it is going to overwrite to whatever the CSV was. You'll notice that the cards now have the frame. It has the little type flag that signifies that it's a unit. It has the name where it needs to be. It has the type where it needs to be. There's the text box where it needs to be. And at the top center of the screen, where there are those little curly brackets, the variables, I've preset all of them to read what we want. So if we want to have a card create an orange essence by doing an effect, then we can just do the curly bracket O, and that it will fill in the blank for us.
Same thing with like overwhelm and arrive, like we did there,
Right.
right? Yeah. One cool thing that Dexterous can do is like say something didn't export correctly. You don't have to necessarily go back to the spreadsheet. You can edit everything here too. So
Right.
like you can never edit everything inside of Dexterous. Obviously, you lose part of the reason why you're even doing this to begin with if
Right.
you know,
But
don't.
it does
But like
let
let's
you kind of
say
see it immediately, right?
yeah, sometimes like the way you get an image in here is a little finicky. So like sometimes it doesn't always go over. So you can go into the arts, you can get whatever
Should be from example.
yeah. See, like that didn't transfer immediately because I probably didn't input something correctly. but you can always go in and update. You can increase the amount or reduce the amount of cards you want to have in the exported PDF as well here with so up to infinite basically. We can do 9 just to showcase what that looks like. Um, but then like let's say this sheet had 45 cards on it instead of just one. All of them would be here. We can go over to the Wanderers to show you kind of like what that looks like, right? So like all of them are here. They don't have the art because
We
have since
deleted them to
used
save space.
yeah to save space. But yeah, so like this is what a full Wanderers like play test session or kit would look like. It would have 3 ofs though for a lot of these. So if I wanted to quickly update that, I would do it over here.
Yeah.
Um,
So it actually depends where you want it, though. If we're doing a physical playtest, we do want 3 ofs because we want it to just print out all the copies.
yep.
If we want to do it via digital playtesting, which is primarily what we do these days, we only need 1 copy because we're saving it as an image file. We don't need 3 of each image file if we're just going to use the one.
So we would I like how this is it is taking so like this wouldn't have happened in our normal one, but like we have a bunch of extra slots here because that's uh what the current file is. Where just this is the name. But we'd go here, we would uh you'd click to export components if you wanted to. So for to export both digitally and physically. So for the Wanderers explicitly, we didn't do any digital playtesting. We did very, very little if we did any at all. So what we would do now that we have all of the cards, the reason we have so many of these printout copies is we would export. We'd click export. We have all of our examples here. We'd have multiple pages. Export PDF, create PDF, and then you can print it. You can save it as a PDF. You can save it as PNGs. You can do it with color. All the stuff. It has the cut lines here, which makes things easier. For a really long time, I would get them printed at like a FedEx or a Staples because it was. I started printing it on our home printer, and that just ate through my ink, and it was actually cheaper to get it done at Staples. So we invested in a really nice Brother LaserJet printer that lives to my right here, and I printed out tons and tons and tons of copies of this, and then I hand cut out a bunch of them, and then that was really annoying and awful. And I bought one of those like slide cutters, which was better, but also really awful. So I'm going to show you what I purchased from a repo business. Real quick, I'll be right back.
Yeah. So while he's doing that, one thing that's super cool about this whole process is that Dexterous has a bunch of different ways to export. Like you can export to this PDF to have these printable files. You can export it directly to Tabletop Simulator. You can export it as images like we do to use it for Cockatrice. You can also export it to some new places. I know that Dexterous has added functionality to export to something called Dustin's Designer Den and also ScreenTop GG, which if you have those processes that you want to use, you can.
Everyone meet Sir Choppinold. It is one of those huge paper choppers. I think it's from the 90s or the 80s, this specific one. And this thing, me and him have spent many, many hours cutting out playtest cards. Thousands and thousands and thousands of playtest cards. And that saved me probably 100 hours over the course of last year cutting these playtest cards out. Because as I showed you earlier, we had the sheer amount of
literal thousands
playtest cards we have. Literal thousands, yes.
Yeah. But going on to like these days, we make edits like once a week at least, and that is not effective to have Collin or anyone really spend hours upon hours upon hours to update all of those cards. We actually, for a time, had a separate print file specifically for updates. Like we had a drop down that right now we have the 0, 1 to like the different stages of design. We had a drop down specifically for this was an update from last week. So you only had to print out like the 4 card changes or what have you, just because we don't want him cutting out that many more every single time.
This is a tiny fraction of the sheer amount of these cutouts we have. Camry. Yeah. Honestly, we've used it a lot more for domestic uses than we would have thought we would have. It's really heavy and it's kind of scary, chopping old. But
Would not
yeah, so
suggest on infants.
this is like I would say maybe 1/10 of the total amount of these paper cutouts we had. Some of them didn't survive. Most of them did. We like told them if you keen-eyed viewers would see certain cards that may or may not look familiar with different costs and different stuff
Yeah,
for the Wanderers.
and like Brian was asking earlier, was there an amount of mental tracking? And there was, to an extent, after you get to this stage where you know what the card is. Maybe it's like 3 attack is too high. Let's play the next 10 games as 2 attack and see how it goes. And we would just make these verbal changes and agree upon like how that card actually works in sitting, and then make that update after the fact.
Yeah. Like this card. Oh, I gotta use my gotta do my beauty blogger thing here. As Camry would say. Oh my gosh, everything's reversed. So this turned into Chartered Expeditioner. It's arrive, play 2/2 Explorer unit tokens. It's a 4/3. The cost is the same, and it has on attack. This is even before Wave existed. Play a 2/2 Explorer unit token. So this card did not change much. Being a 4/3, it would be cracked. I think we quickly just but yeah, like this is one of the very early cards, and it didn't change much. Meanwhile, let me see if I can find. Hive Queen. Okay, so here's what Hive Queen did. It cost 3 orange, 3 purple, 3 green. It was a 12/12. So it cost 9 and it was a 12/12. It had dash, deadly, flight, guardian, lunge, overwhelm, and steadfast. So it was just
a few of those words don't even exist right now.
Oh yeah, and probably won't exist anymore. Pop-up barracks. Yeah, so these are fun to go through. They cleanse. That's just Cataclysmic Echo, and I think it's almost
Art
the exact same. This is the exact same, actually. Cost 5, same cost. Choose 1, destroy all units. Choose 1, destroy all relics. Wow. So we nailed that one, I guess. Assassinate. Also, anyway, I can wax poetic about these old cards. Oh, we got Cauldron here. Classic.
This has become a Collin nostalgia stream. Let's come back to this in 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. All right, okay. So yeah, point being, we did that. We got Dexterous made playtesting even inefficiently, like where we were reprinting files over and over again, just way faster than this.
Yeah. And then from that, we have basically almost stopped doing physical playtesting in favor of doing digital playtesting as a way, one, to allow me to be a part of it, as well as some other designers we brought on that are also remote. It gives us the ability to immediately test from all edges of the country or world without having to have everyone print out their own copies, cut them up, and then find their own local play group, or play physically over webcam, like some things have popped up after the pandemic. Like Spell Table for Magic became very popular for a good time. I don't know if it's still being played or not. But from that, though, we also can now do online playtesting with external playtesters, which we've made a few calls for. We've started onboarding more playtesters to play and expand the amount of games that we get to play each week, and expand the amount of feedback and uh, editing loops over and over again that we can update with more data and more feedback than we could with just printing out the cards, chopping them up, putting them in sleeves, playing games, and then going back to the drawing board. The amount of steps that has been removed from that is so amazing. Like the amount of time that we have saved. Like I don't know if Colin wants to go back to chopping up cards,
I
but
wouldn't. I don't hate it. I still vastly prefer physical playtesting.
sure.
I still vastly prefer sitting across from someone and playing a game with someone. But from a scale perspective, you can't beat the speed and efficiency of how we're doing it now.
Yeah.
I would do it. I would like to do as we get closer to more finalized cards. Having a physical playtest session would be nice. But yeah, um, I do have a question about all of this though, like efficiency, scale, all of that's really good. Um, if you had like advice for anyone trying to do it themselves, like at what stage is this no longer like good enough? Because this is good enough. Like the
It,
handwriting cards is good enough. Like don't let
so
us like all what we've done is was necessary for us, but it might not be necessary for everyone, right?
right. So it all depends what your end goal is. So we wanted to get to printer. We wanted to publish our own game. We wanted to make these updates very quickly. And we also had a big team. So we have with what 6 people, and now we have like 8 total designers. We want to have the ability to make these changes as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible because there are so many of us across, you know, the country. If you are just creating your own game, definitely just put marker on paper and then just make your own game. You don't have to order the special card stock. You can just use note cards. I know a lot of people will like take just pieces of paper and then create the grid lines and then write in the cards that way. If that's what works for you, great. Like that is the best way to get your idea on paper and make it actually a living thing.
Yeah.
And that's
I
the
would
easiest way to know if it's viable. Because I would not actually suggest that you go through the trouble that I did and create this spreadsheet with all these formulas that like links to Dexterous. Obviously, you don't know how, you don't have to go as far as I did. You can just make a very basic spreadsheet with all the different stats and then put it in Dexterous or Nandeck or Cocktail or whatever system you want, and then print it out. And then that'll help you like scale to whatever scale you want to as efficiently as you want to. But really, that's an amount of work that might not be as fulfilling, especially as you're trying to uh, really get the cards in front of you. Because if you don't ever print them out until you're totally done, like a full deck, then you're not going to see them physically in your hands. Where if you are creating these cards as you're designing them, you physically have them in your hand, you kind of like feel okay, I'm missing this or I need to try this, and you can like start making hands. You can start playing out like a small loop of what you think the gameplay might be, and then get that idea that this game can work. I have something here, then move on to something else. Like if you want to stay at that Sharpie level, you can. Like Colin stayed at the Sharpie level for years before even contacting me. Like when he called me and started sending me pictures of these Sharpie cards, there were already thousands of them. The downside to doing that at that much level, though, is that there were thousands of them that he now needed to categorize and now needed to like put together and see like, okay, so what's making decks and what's not. As soon as you put them into a spreadsheet, even if you don't go to the formula level, you can start sorting it and like control finding like, okay, how many of these have an arrive effects, how many of these are units, how many are spells, and you can start to sort them more easily once you have that all in a database of some kind.
right. So yeah. So what I'm hearing is prototype, ideation, figure out if the bones are good,
Right.
Sharpies are good. Or even if you just want to like make quote unquote make a game. Like making a game doesn't mean you have to produce a game. It doesn't mean you have
No.
to go to a manufacturer. It doesn't even have to mean that you need to make like 10 copies of the game. You can this is a game. Like
Yeah.
these are a game. This is our game. And it would have been fine if the goal was to just like play with friends and test it over the long term. So like the it's all I think you mentioned it's all about scale. It's all
Yeah.
about ambition and scope. And if you think that you need also I think distance plays a large part of it too. Like
Yeah. Absolutely.
if if your friend group is online, figuring out how to get it onto like cockatrice is just how we use cockatrice for our play testing. So like just figuring out a way to get the cards somewhere else so someone can play is maybe more useful for like the dexterous approach. And your cards don't have to be as evolved either. Like we have a frame, we have our costs, we have all of that stuff in these cards. So like you don't even need all of that.
But
I
like,
will say
okay.
I will say names. We started requiring names for every playtest card and pictures for every playtest card because it matters.
It helps for memorization and pattern recognition. Once you have that like name and that icon, you can see it and then immediately know what that card does. Whereas if you don't have a name and you don't have the picture, you're having to reread the card over and over again, like while you draw it in your hand. Oh, it's this card. Oh, it's this card. The amount of time you save by just being able to look at the picture and be like, that's what that card is. It may be a little off because like as we've experienced over the years of playtesting, when you make changes to cards, sometimes your brain like stays on previous iterations of the card. And even I have been like in a playtest session with external playtesters, and I'm looking at the card that they have in front of them. I'm like, oh yeah, that card does that now because we changed that last week, where it was a different way the card worked for so long. But if you want to open up Dexterous and showcase No Verbs games and just like showcase like a basic frame that I made for one of my game ideas that I haven't even finished yet, but I just wanted to create a frame to like showcase how it might work. So you would just go into projects, No Verbs games, and like it doesn't need to be complex. Like that is literally one of my games where I'm just trying to design something about overlaying cards and numbers on things. It doesn't have to be all like frilly and super complex. Sometimes you just need lines and words.
Yep. You mentioned so this ties into playtesting a little bit. You mentioned change log. You mentioned how do we track changes? How do we change cards from one week to another? Maybe that's another session entirely. Maybe the whole playtesting. Is that something? If that's something interesting to people, let us know in the comments. We can do a whole session on how we track changes week to week, month to month over the course of our playtesting. Because it can get messy.
Yeah, the long and short of it is maintaining version control.
Yeah.
So like there is
something
a lot
I'm
of
very
us,
bad at. I'm very bad at version control.
I really try to like keep a lockdown on it. For one, the Dexterous is only myself and Collin have access to it, just for that reason. Where like we could give it to the whole team, but then if something happens and we don't like know exactly what happened, then it's a matter of trying to figure out what was changed where. Where Google Sheets at least has the upside of looking back on versions and you can actually see who changed what at what date. That being said, we also create copies of things. Like we will create a copy of the example sheet and say like, these are all the proposed changes. Do we like them or do we want to not do it? And then any ones that we do will like highlight in green and just swap over. But because we have external playtesters now, it's really important to me, having experienced a lot of games like digital video games and seeing like what their update logs are and like what they changed. It's important to me to actually make those update logs for the external playtesters of this card got changed to this card got changed to this card was cut, this card was added, so they can look and see, especially since when we're making changes to cards in playtesting, we want to know, we want the playtesters to know what changed so they can actually try it out, so they can see what we're focusing on, so that like we can have more communication on like, hey, this is what we need to know about right now. Are these cards working properly after they've been updated? Do they feel, you know, more fun, less broken? Do you want to play them more now? Sometimes part of playtesting is literally just figuring out what cards people don't want to play and make them a way to make them want to play it. Like if it's not getting put in decks, then it more or less shouldn't even be on the card list. Should it get cut or should it get changed? And if it's getting changed, how or why is it getting changed? Like, are we making it stronger? Are we making it different? Are we making other cards work with it better? And just having those change logs to like say, like, this is why we did this. Try this out now is super helpful.
Yeah, I'll say, especially during the Wander development, since most of us are here in Austin and Nathan is remote, we made a lot of changes in person, like, and failed to document that. And I know that like a lot of times Nathan would see cards and be like, I have no clue how or why this card was done. So I would say if you are more than a couple of people on a team, I would challenge yourself to like keep a change log, update it so that everyone is on the same page.
Yeah.
Uh, Specifically, I mean, I still think that some of these cards that are even printed in the Wanderers do something else because of they were just like they were. I mean, I know I not to put Gabe on blast, but he still calls the Wanderer cards their playtest cards, their playtest names, because that's what they were for us for so long.
Yeah.
They weren't the final name. Even the playtest cards now aren't even remotely close to what they're going to be, whatever Corey ends up calling them in the final version.
Yeah.
So if you ever hear us call a card something wild, it's because that's what it was to us. We don't name
Yeah.
the cards. We name every card, but we don't
To-
name the cards.
To be fair, though, as we have gotten more names on cards, and like I have challenged the team to like be more expressive about the names, make them more memorable, like put the design that you're doing and like actually make a name to what you think that is. And that has really helped Corey in making the art briefs to make it a real thing. And actually, a good amount of time, those names stick. Not all of them, but a few of my names from the Wanderers stuck the entire way through.
I think Essence Burst is the only Essence Burst and Hive Queen. I think are the only two cards that like actually made it through to the end. I think more for the factions are going to make it through, but
Sure.
even then, like Corey is going to name them whatever he wants to name them.
Sure.
But I agree. Like a lot of the Wanderer names were like big guy, small
Fox.
guy, fox. Like
Some of them were literally just whatever the icon that I was able to grab
yeah,
just got named that. And
we've moved away from that. I think that's helpful and good. But yeah, like this card is just big spider. Big spider.
Do you recognize the card? Name that card.
Yeah, that could be a fun thing. Some of them are non-recognizable, but
no.
In any case, I feel like we're rambling on a little bit now. But I hopefully this sheds some light into kind of like how we got where we are and kind of the reason why we moved from these to more quickly updatable print files via Dexterous and spreadsheets. Our entire backend, we have three different. We have our entire backend for making cards is completely different too. So that would be another one we could go over as well, like kind of a deep dive into our design process. That could be something else we talk about as well. So like if that's something you're curious about, leave it in the comments. But you have anything else to say, Nathan, before we wrap it up?
I think it's just really cool to showcase that we did not come out of the gates with this super polished product, and also you don't need to have a polished product. We were Sharpies on cards for years, and it was only because we were scaling up to try to make this thing a reality that we had to make these calls to be more efficient and be way more mobile in our design process. You don't have to be super polished. You don't have to be like magic levels of design when you create your first ideas. You don't have to worry about your frame until much later. One thing that I tell a lot of people is like the frame should be the last thing, because how many times did our cards physically change where everything was in design? Frequently.
I mean,
There was
I
a
can
there
show
was a
you right here.
yeah.
So this was one of our frames, and then we had this was a different one of our frames, which is a slightly different, like kind of layout. And then we have the more evolved frame here, which is a little nicer, a little fancier. Um, here's some with like art on it. But even this, like, look at where the attack and health is on this.
Yeah.
Like,
And then just
definitely,
like that was after we put the names in the center, which
yeah,
was years in the making. Like we started with names at the top left, just like how the forefathers did it. And cost on the top right, then cost ended up being on the left. Names ended up being on like the center top. Like we moved things around a lot to try to figure out where they worked aesthetically. And even then, it wasn't important until we actually went to print. So we are gifted in having Camry, who is an amazing graphic designer, like help with the creation of the final frame. And I would suggest that you find someone for that if that's where you want to go as far as releasing your own game. But until you go to do that, it doesn't need to be like super polished or pretty. You're going to be changing it so much in design. Just make sure the game works and is fun, and then everything else will fall into place afterwards.
yeah, it's good advice. All right. Well, as always, if you want to continue the conversation, we are pretty much always in Discord. The a link to the Discord will be in the description. Um, and feel free to join and ask any and all questions there. Anything else, Nathan?
No, just have a good night, y'all.
Yeah. Have a good night, everyone. All right. Bye. Goodbye. Bye. Bye. Bye.